There's been a murder in the Briarwood house where 7 women board. Each one has a different story, a different struggle, and a different reason she might have done it. What could possibly go wrong? Hi, I'm Amanda, and this is Spineless Books, your one-stop shop for all things audiobook. The Briar Club by Kate Quinn is a lengthy novel in which a murder takes place right in the beginning. There are tons of characters, tons to keep track of, but it works. Kate Quinn systematically takes you through each of the many characters, and you get to know their story one at a time. Their narratives don't just focus on personal struggles, they also each weave in one of the different isms of the time. Racism, classism, sexism, McCarthyism. There's a lot more to these stories than just, hey, how did this lady end up in this house? Each character embodies a different 1950s archetype, and the intersection of the political and personal stories really makes this an excellent character-driven historical fiction. I'm not sure how Kate Quinn actually crammed as much into this book as she did, because it's super complicated and it shouldn't work. But there's something about the structure of going through each character in great depth, one at a time, that really makes this function, and she puts so much into each section. There is just an unbelievably deep and layered and complicated setup for every single character, where their backstory comes from, how they got to the house, and, in a minor sense, why they could be the murderer. My only real criticism of the structure is that I found in some cases there were not exactly enough breadcrumbs. For example, Nora, one of the characters in the house, is introduced really early. She's one of the first lengthy backstories that we get. And there weren't, in my opinion, enough small breadcrumbs strung along the way for me to really focus on her. So when she reemerges strongly at the ending, as all characters do, I kind of had to think to myself, wait, which one was Nora? Oh, right, okay. So I feel like a couple more bigger drops of each character throughout the book would have been really helpful, especially for the characters that we met early on in the book, like Nora. To be fair, Kate Quinn bit off a lot, but she was able to chew it all before the end of the book, so well done, Kate Quinn. Part of this clarity is helped by Saskia Marleveld's brilliant narration. I think she's come to be one of my favorite narrators over time. I've listened to a lot of books that she's narrated. I think she does a great job differentiating characters, and she sort of seamlessly slips between accents, so you don't even really notice it's happening, and eventually you kind of forget you're listening to a single person. Now, I listened to an interview that included Kate Quinn and Saskia Marleveld at the end of the audiobook, and it turns out Kate Quinn actually wrote some of this book with Saskia Marleveld in mind. Kate Quinn realized there were going to be a lot of characters, and in order to help Saskia Marleveld, who she knew would narrate the audiobook, she tried to differentiate them at least in different parts of the country, if not from another part of the world. So interesting to think that an author is writing a little bit for a narrator in this case. The real brilliance of this book is how the boarding house mirrors the complexities of an entire American era. Each character represents a different struggle of the age, and it's almost impossible to not feel empathy for their situations. I found myself way more swept up in the personal stories of the women than I did in the crime. In fact, there were parts of the book where I kind of forgot the crime had even happened. I appreciated that when it was time to reveal what happened, Quinn delivered the information swiftly. After wrapping me up in all of these long, sweeping stories, she basically just said, "Pow, here's what happened." As soon as we knew what we needed to know about each woman, she closed the case, and it was really cool how we didn't have to waste any time. The women do make appearances in each other's stories, so it's not forced, it feels fairly natural. So for example, there's a young girl who lives in the house, she's the daughter of the owner of the home, and her name is Lena. And Lena's story has a really serious arc, and, she shows up repeatedly in each character, but over the course of her appearances with each character, she basically gets her entire arc. She doesn't have her own section, whereas almost every other character does. Lena's older brother Pete, also living in the house, gets his own chapters more than once, actually, and he's the only male character to do so. But Pete sort of serves as the bookends because he essentially grows up over the course of the book. Woven through the story are also recipes from the Briarwood Club meetings. Now, personally, I could have done without those. I found them a little bit distracting, but they never went on so long that I was really frustrated by them. I just didn't think they were super necessary. The other thing I found challenging about the book was the transitions. We spent such extended periods of time with each character. I mean, in the audiobook, characters had chapters that were well over an hour long. That when we would start a new character, I found this moment of like, oh, I don't really care about this person. And that went away every single time. I got invested in every character, but it definitely felt like a little bit of a letdown when after such a long listening period, I had to let go of someone and move on to someone else. Overall, it worked out, but there were just these little moments where I was like, but, it was okay. Overall, I'd give this a solid 4 stars, and it is definitely a book club pick. There's tons to talk about each character. There's things to talk about with regard to the murder that happens right at the beginning of the book, but then there's also all of the social issues that Quinn packs in from the 1950s. I mean, really, she hits every major bullet, and I don't know quite how she pulled it off, but it worked. I don't know what the odds are that all of those perspectives would have ended up in a single house, but they do in Kate Quinn's case. I might have given this a 5 if it was a tiny bit shorter because it did feel like a pretty serious investment, but overall, I really enjoyed it and I would definitely recommend it for a book club. But remember, you might love what I hate and hate what I love, so make your own opinion. But thanks for listening to mine. See you next time. I hope you like and subscribe.